Guten Tag alle, Herr Wallis hier. Heute wollte ich nochmal über Konjunktiv 1 und 2 sprechen. Today I wanted to talk to you again about the subjunctive 1 and 2, or as it's referred to in German, Konjunktiv 1 und 2. Uh, the past or the subjunctive, you should know, is a verb mood, much like the passive is. And in the case of the subjunctive, it's used to express uncertainty, doubt, or a contrary to reality condition. It's also frequently utilized to reflect politeness and good manners. So we're going to look at this in a little bit more depth today. So let's start with the subjunctive to, and let's go over when it is used. So the first reason might be an as-if statement or a contrary to reality statement, such as gibt das Geld aus, als ob reich wäre. He spends his money as if he were rich. A second reason would perhaps be for a polite request, and this usually involves the modal verbs, something like Könntest du mir das Buch bringen? Could you please bring me the book? So this is a polite way of asking, and using the subjunctive to in this regard makes it more polite. And when the third reason is to express doubt or uncertainty, like Ich glaube nicht, dass ich das machen würde, I don't believe I would do that. To express wishes, like wenn ich das Geld gehabt hätte, hätte ich mir ein neues Auto gekauft. Or sometimes it can be the subjunctive to can be used as a replacement for the subjunctive one, but only normally in the first and third person singular, like wir sagten, wir hätten sie nicht gesehen. It's like we said we had not seen her, and I'm using the first person plural here, wir. Okay, so the subjunctive to is usually formed by adding an umlaut to the vowel in the imperfect form of the verb. So you take the imperfect form of the verb and you add an umlaut to the vowel if it needs it, and you also add an e if it's not already there. The only exceptions to this are the modal verbs sollen and wollen. So if you have the infinitive haben, you have the imperfect conjugation of that, hatte, and you add an umlaut to it, you got the subjunctive to form hätte. Mögen, got mochte, which is the imperfect conjugation of mögen in the third person, and then you add the umlauts and you get möchte. Sein, it's the imperfect version is war in the third person singular, so we add an e there because it's not already there, and then we add umlauts, so we get wäre. Okay, so remember the subjunctive is a verb mood and not a tense. So let's look at subjunctive to here. You have different tenses with this mood, like the present subjunctive, möchtest du mit uns gehen oder würdest du mit uns gehen. You got the past, ich hätte das nicht gesagt oder ich wäre nicht mit dir gegangen. And then you can even express the future conditional, like ich würde mir ein Auto kaufen, wenn ich das Geld hätte. So these are some ways that the subjunctive to can appear in different tenses, but it's all part of the same mood. Alright, the subjunctive 1, or Konjunktiv 1, also can appear in different tenses, like the present. Sie sagt, sie gehe nach Hause. And remember, the subjunctive 1, or the Konjunktiv 1, is mainly used for indirect speech, so relating what someone else has said. So with that in mind, sie sagt, sie sei nach Hause gegangen. This is the past subjunctive 1. And here you have the future in the subjunctive 1. Sie sagt, sie werde nach Hause gehen. Okay, the most frequently used verbs in the subjunctive 2 forms are haben and sein and the modal verbs. For most other verbs, you use a substitute, which is würden, plus an infinitive of whatever the secondary verb is at the end. So instead of saying ich ginge, it's more likely ich würde gehen. Ich sah, which is the subjunctive to form, more likely you would say ich würde sehen. This is especially true when the subjunctive form of the verb is identical to the imperfect form, such as, for example, ich lernte. You just looking at that, even though that's also the subjunctive to conjugation of ich and lernen, it's indistinguishable from the imperfect form. So in these cases especially, you use wurden to clarify it. Okay, so let's take a little closer look at wurden for a moment and just make sure you know the conjugations of it. Ich würde, du würdest, er würde, wir würden, ihr würdet, sie würden. And you're most likely going to be using the third person singular, um, and it's considered the subjunctive too. But actually, you could use all of these equally. It can happen. Just depends on what your subject is. Okay, the construction wurde plus the infinitives is sometimes called the conditional. Like, what would you say? Was würdest du sagen? He would not go with us. Würde mit uns nicht gehen. When you use würden, the secondary verb, whatever it may be, will be placed at the end of the sentence in its infinitive form. This is very much like the future tense when you were using werden and then putting the infinitive form of the secondary verb at the end. How would you do that? Wie würdest du das machen? Or she would not take the car. Sie würde das Auto nicht nehmen. These are just some examples. So you can use würden to make hypothetical conclusions. Ich würde meine Freunde vermissen. You can use it to say, for expressing polite requests, würdest du bitte lauter sprechen? Oder würden Sie bitte lauter sprechen? You can use it for making wishes. Sometimes, most of the time, this is expressed using wenn, which means if. So, wenn du nur mit mir kommen würdest, if you would only come with me, yeah? Okay, das war's und vielen Dank für das Zuschauen. Auf Wiedersehen.